Thank you. President, I ask unanimous consent that I may be recognized for 15 minutes as if we were in morning business.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. President. My colleagues, I rise today to introduce a bill that has a long title, Improved Nutrition Program Integrity and Deficit Reduction Act of 2013. Big title, but it's a good bill. Last June, I stood here in this body, along with Chairperson Stabenow of the Agriculture Committee, to encourage my colleagues to pass bipartisan reform legislation known as the Farm Bill. The legislation we put together in the Senate Ag Committee would have strengthened and preserved the safety net for our farmers and ranchers, while also being responsible to taxpayers by providing billions of dollars for deficit reduction. At the time, we were told by the Congressional Budget Office, the CBO, that the Farm Bill passed by the Agriculture Committee, one of the first bills, by the way, that we were able to pass under regular order and in record amount of time, 2.5 days. But the CBO estimated at that time the Farm Bill that was passed by the Ag Committee in the Senate would save $24 billion over 10 years, including $4 billion from the nutrition title. However, according to the latest CBO projections, a projection that have really reverberated in farm country, released just last Friday, the Farm Bill we passed last year would now only save $13 billion and no longer represents any savings in the nutrition title. We could have done more last year, and we must do more this year to rein in the largest expenditure within the Department of Agriculture's budget. No, it doesn't go to farmers. We're talking about specifically the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. It's called SNAP, more commonly known as food stamps. Now, in the context of sequestration, SNAP was exempted from any across-the-board cuts, along with Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. It was in that pasture. A lot of other things were in a different pasture, especially national security. However, it is clear that there are several areas within the program that could provide significant savings that were unfortunately left untouched. Now, the legislation that I introduced today, along with Senator Johans and Senator Thune, builds off several amendments previously offered in a piecemeal fashion. We've wrapped them all together, each that should be enacted, but combined in this bill represents over $36 billion in savings. By eliminating loopholes, duplicative programs, unnecessary bonuses, inflation adjustments, and restricting lottery winners from receiving benefits, this legislation will instill and restore integrity to the SNAP program while still providing benefits to those truly in need. I really ought to repeat that. This restores integrity to the SNAP program while still providing benefits to those truly in need. I'm not proposing a dramatic change in the policy of nutrition programs. Instead, this legislation enforces the principles of good government and returns SNAP spending to much more responsible levels. While saving over $36 billion, our legislation also makes common sense and comprehensive reforms to the SNAP program, the food stamp program, that can and should be enacted immediately. Over half of the SNAP food benefits in our country are utilized by households with children, and SNAP can play and does play a critical role in helping people put food on the table in times of need. However, at least 17 states, I'm sorry to report, 17 states are gaming the system. But by designing their low-income Home Energy Assistance Program, the acronym for that is LIHEAP, a very commonly used term here with regards to nutrition programs and the energy programs. But these 17 states designed their program to exploit the food stamp program. This is not right, Mr. President. It's not right. The LIHEAP loophole works like this. A participating state agency annually or the agencies, annually issue extremely low LIHEAP benefits to qualify otherwise ineligible households for standard utility allowances, which then result in increased monthly food stamp benefits. For example, today, a state agency can issue only $1 annually in LIHEAP benefits to increase monthly food stamp benefits on an average of $90 a month. That's $1,080 per year for households that do not otherwise pay out-of-pocket utility bills. That's not right. Last year's Senate Farm Bill included a provision to tighten the LIHEAP loophole. Even though it would only reduce the loophole, it set the minimum qualifying LIHEAP benefit at $10 annually, not $1, $10. At the time, it would have saved taxpayers nearly $450 million every year for a total of $4 billion over a 10-year period. Now, completely eliminating the LIHEAP loophole, as my legislation does, will save taxpayers $12 billion. Now, let me be very clear about this. Eliminating the LIHEAP loophole does not affect SNAP eligibility for anyone using the food stamp program. Eliminating the LIHEAP loophole would only decrease SNAP benefits for those who would not otherwise qualify for the higher SNAP benefits or the food stamp benefits. Let me point out another area that must be reformed. States using categorical eligibility or automatic eligibility to provide food stamp benefits. Now, categorical eligibility is simply known as CAT-L, and it was designed to help streamline the administration of the SNAP program by allowing households to be certified as eligible for the food stamp benefits and be certified without evaluating household assets or gross income, a previous requirement. Now, 42 states, unfortunately, I don't like to report these kind of things, but however, 42 states are exploiting an unintended loophole of the Temporary Assistance Needy Families Program and simply provided informational brochures and informational 1-800 numbers to maximize the food stamp enrollment and the corresponding increase in federal food benefits. These states are gaming the system to bring otherwise ineligible SNAP participants into the program. Now, my legislation ties categorical eligibility to cash assistance, thereby eliminating this loophole. That saves taxpayers $11.5 billion, a lot of money. To be clear, this represents a cut to SNAP food benefits. However, this amount represents the amount of benefits to people who would not otherwise be eligible for these benefits were it not for states gaming the system. In an ongoing effort to streamline government programs and reduce redundancy in taxpayer spending, we should also look at the unnecessary spending in federal employment and training programs. According to a GAO report last year, there are currently 47 such programs that annually cost $18 billion. Let me repeat that, 47 different programs annually costing $18 billion. Federal employment and training programs. Nobody would object to a federal employment and training program given the problems we have with our economy with 47, according to a GAO report, $18 billion. Eliminating the duplicative SNAP employment and training program would save more than $4 billion, would not affect SNAP food benefits. I repeat, this legislation, this provision of this legislation would not cut the buying power of any food stamp household to put food in their refrigerators and also their kitchen cupboards. What am I talking about? In addition to the base program funding that we're talking about with employment and training help, states have the option of providing their own funding to their state education and training program, and then the Department of Agriculture is required to match that. Currently, four states receive over 80% of the total 50-50 match funding. 4 states, 80%. What about the rest of the states? They include New York, California, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey. New York, 37%, California, 21%, Pennsylvania, about 13%, New Jersey, about 10%. This optional 50-50 federal match is uncapped. It can be used by states to provide reimbursement for participant expenses in regards to educational and training that are deemed reasonable and necessary. But somebody has to define reasonable and necessary. And the following items have come under reasonable and necessary, especially in these 4 states. Union dues, test fees, clothing and tools required for the job, relocation expenses, licensing, bonding fees, transportation, childcare, tennis lessons. I made that up, Mr. President. I thought it would catch your attention. No, there's no tennis lessons in here. Might be, could be. But at least in regards to this reform, let's go to another provision of my legislation. It ends the USDA practice of giving $48 million in awards every year to state agencies for basically doing their job to ensure proper use of the American tax dollar. Currently, bonuses are given to states for best program access, signing up as many people for food stamps as possible. Most improved program access. How many more people signed up for SNAP compared to the previous year? So if you sign up more people than you did last year, well, you get an award. Best application processing timeliness. That's handling applications within the required guidelines. And we're getting a benefit from that. In essence, Mr. President, state agencies are rewarded for performing the minimum expectations for stewardship of the food stamp program and also of the American tax dollar. The bonuses are not even required to be used for food stamp administration. A recipient state may choose the funding for any state priority. So if we're talking here about $48 million, that goes to state agencies that had these four Oscar awards here in regards to food stamps, but they can use the funding for anything, for any state priority. Eliminating these unnecessary state bonuses will save taxpayers over 10 years $480 million. Another area where my legislation streamlines government programs is through the elimination of the SNAP Nutrition Education Grant Program. A number of existing nutrition education programs are delivered more equitably with a more cost-benefit ratio that makes sense. At least 6 federal programs administered by the Department of Agriculture, the National Institute of Health, land-grant university extension programs. In practice, the SNAP Nutrition Education Program is inequitably distributed, with the top 4 states, here we go again, receiving over 54% of the funding. The bottom 33 state agencies receive less than 1% of the total funding. That's not right. With credit to Senator Rubio. Additionally, our bill ends inflation adjustments for accountable resources and for emergency food assistance, saving over $600 million. The legislation also terminates the ongoing stimulus of several years ago, the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009, which provided extra funding to increase monthly SNAP food stamp benefits. Finally, the legislation does prohibit lottery winners. Senator Stabenow insisted on that in the last Farm Bill. Makes a lot of sense. From receiving SNAP benefits and keeps them from receiving new benefits if they do not meet the financial requirements of SNAP. Overall, by eliminating several duplicative programs, closing loopholes, ending the unnecessary spending, improving the nutrition program integrity, and Deficit Reduction Act will save taxpayers over $36 billion. Latest score by the CBO. I understand the importance of domestic food assistance programs for many hardworking Americans, including many Kansans. I know that. Back in 1996, when I was chairman of the House Agriculture Committee, there was an effort to send the food stamp program back to the states, and the governors wanted it. They wanted the money. They didn't want the food stamps. And we made an effort under a very historic farm bill at that time to save but reform and restore integrity to the food stamp program. We have another opportunity right now. So I do understand the importance of domestic food assistance programs for many hardworking Americans and Kansans. My goal is very simple. Again, restore integrity to the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program in a common sense and comprehensive manner. Enacting this package of reforms will allow the federal government to continue to help those that truly need food stamp, food benefits, and assistance. Again, I want to thank Senators Thune and Johans for their assistance in this effort. I look forward to working with my colleagues to enact these reforms for the benefit of all Americans. I yield back, Mr. President, and after a very careful notice, I note the absence of a quorum.